We imagine a future. And our imaginings horrify us.
At the end of time, a moment will come when just one man remains. Then the moment will pass. Man will be gone.
Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer tells the story of J. Robert Oppenheimer, an American theoretical physicist responsible for the creation of the atom bomb, a nuclear weapon powerful enough to raze cities to the ground and end hundreds of thousands of lives in the blink of an eye. In the film, Oppenheimer is played by Peaky Blinders actor Cillian Murphy. And to oversimplify it, Murphy's Oppenheimer agrees to take on the Manhattan Project with the understanding that his creation will end the war and ensure world peace. But nearly 2 decades ago, Cillian Murphy also played a physicist charged with determining the fate of mankind by a nuclear weapon of his own creation, in a film that didn't get anywhere near the same level of attention that Oppenheimer has gotten. Danny Boyle and Alex Garland's cult sci-fi masterpiece, Sunshine. And in all fairness, it seems that the Barbenheimer movement is largely responsible for casual viewers going out to see this film in its opening weekend, which is obviously coupled with Nolan's reputation for delivering theatrically worthy films to the cinema. But in 2007, Danny Boyle's Sunshine was afforded no such advantages. Boyle had not yet directed Slumdog Millionaire, for which he is typically known, and the box office competition for that summer were tentpole escapist blockbusters like Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, Spider-Man 3, and Transformers. This was an era in which people sought out fun, high-budget spectacle, not a gritty, ponderous character study that delves into the psyche of those charged with the fate of man, nor a film that blurs the lines between faith and madness, scientific reason and callousness, humanity and nature, nor another film where a group of people collectively lose their minds in the vacuum of space. In Boyle's own words, you couldn't pay people to see this film. It only made about $35 million worldwide, on a shockingly low $40 million budget. But over the years, the film has garnered a well-deserved cult following, and I think now is the best time to recommend it, because I know a lot of people who are seeing Oppenheimer opening weekend have probably never seen this, or even heard of it. And I really think this movie deserves a lot more attention than it's gotten. I'm going to avoid spoilers for the film, but everyone's perception for what a spoiler is sort of different. And in my opinion, I think you should avoid any trailers for Sunshine because they basically show the entire movie. And I'll not get into the specifics of any events that happen past the 25-minute mark, so think of this video as more of a recommendation than a breakdown. So Sunshine takes place in the year 2057. The sun is slowly dying, and Earth is trapped in a solar winter, bringing humanity to the brink of extinction. About 7 years prior, there was a mission called the Icarus Project, in which a group of international astronauts were tasked to reignite the sun by dropping a nuclear bomb into its heart. But the crew of the Icarus I failed to deliver the payload and went radio silent. So now the crew of the Icarus II has been tasked with that same mission to drop a stellar bomb with the mass equivalent to Manhattan and create a star within a star. Time is running out for humanity, and the crew of the Icarus II are burdened by the pressure of knowing that there will not be an Icarus III, and they are humanity's last hope. Aboard the Icarus II are Cillian Murphy's Kappa, physicist in charge of operating the nuclear fission bomb, composed of dark matter and uranium. Murphy plays the character in a very reserved, almost socially awkward way, often portraying him as a silent observer. But Murphy has also mentioned that his approach to the character is due to the fact that he is the only crew member who truly understands the operation and scale of their payload. Chris Evans plays Mace, the ship's engineer. He's the most level-headed and mission-focused member of the crew, which enables him to operate coherently under pressure-filled situations. Evans has cited Mace's military background as a source of his morally uncomplicated personality, although he does display a bit of hot-headedness when certain characters hinder the mission. Regardless of the situation, his priority is always ensuring that the payload reaches its destination. Rose Byrne plays the pilot of the Icarus II, Cassie. Like Kappa, she is more reserved in group settings, but she is also the most emotional crew member. She definitely has the most humanity of anyone else, or at least she displays it the most. But while those traits are important in a human, emotions can often cloud judgment in high-pressure situations like this, when the fate of humanity is at stake. Cliff Curtis plays Cyril, the ship's doctor and psychological officer, who has slowly developed an addiction to sunlight over the course of their journey. Despite his almost spiritual obsession with the sun, he's still able to maintain his professionalism and dedication to the mission. Michelle Yeoh plays Corazon, the biologist in charge of the oxygen garden, who approaches her work in a similarly spiritual manner to Cyril's obsession with the light. Yeoh attributes Corazon's spiritual approach to her garden to her Asian influence and being constantly surrounded by organic things. Despite being put under extreme levels of stress throughout the mission, she's able to maintain a level head, much like Mace. Troy Garrity plays the Icarus II's communications officer and second-in-command, Harvey. While he maintains a tough exterior throughout the mission, he appears to be constantly repressing his emotions and stress, most likely refusing to speak about it with Cyril. Out of anyone on the mission, Harvey seems to be the least honest, as it appears his desire to return home safely outweighs his commitment to the mission. Benedict Wong is the ship's navigator, Trey. He's a highly intelligent mathematician and hacker who has a whole lot of calculations running through his head at all times. But even he isn't perfect, and makes mistakes that jeopardize the mission as much as anyone else. And last but not least, we have Captain Kaneda, played by Hiroyuki Sanada. He's a selfless, stoic leader who never lets his doubts about the mission's success or the pressure of their objective show to the rest of the crew. He's calm, collected, pragmatic, and essentially any other quality you could possibly want in a leader. The success of the mission is what matters most to him, but he still values the lives of the crew and will place himself in danger before anyone else. The film starts out by giving us a glimpse of the bewitching effects that the exposure to sunlight at close proximity can have on a human being. Cyril observes our star in the observation room for no other reason than he claims it's therapeutic. Then, in the mess hall, Captain Kaneda delivers the first of many pieces of bad news. The strength and ferocity of the solar winds are much higher than anticipated at their current distance, meaning they will soon lose their ability to transmit messages back to Earth. Kappa takes advantage of this moment to message his family, reminding them that it takes 8 minutes for light to travel from the sun to Earth. Unfortunately, since he struggles to formulate his thoughts coherently, he takes up more time than anticipated, so Mace isn't able to get a message out to his loved ones, which instigates conflict. Mace's little fit of rage lands him 2 hours in the Earth simulation room, as prescribed by Cyril. Meanwhile, Captain Kaneda worries about what caused the failure of the Icarus I, and Corazon assures him that it wasn't a lack of oxygen, considering their own garden has given them nearly enough air for the delivery and the return journey already. Still concerned, Captain Kaneda watches the footage of the captain of the Icarus I, Pinbacker, from their travel log, as if it will bring him closer to the truth. Later on, the crew all gather in the observation deck to witness Mercury's orbit in a very wholesome but bittersweet moment, because you know this is the last moment of peace the characters will get from this point on. But interestingly, the iron content of Mercury is able to act as an antenna of sorts and amplifies a distress beacon sent by none other than the Icarus I. After much debate, the crew lets Kappa decide whether or not they should change trajectory to the stranded vessel or continue with the mission as planned. He decides that they should go for it with the logic that they've used up all of Earth's resources for this last payload, and 2 payloads creates a better chance of success. They proceed with this change of plans, but something goes wrong. Trey properly and precisely calculated the change in trajectory of the ship, but not the solar shield, which could result in the destruction of the ship if not adjusted. And this is the impetus for the chaos and insanity that pervade the remainder of the film. The screenwriter for the film was Alex Garland, who later went on to write and direct films like Ex Machina and Annihilation, as well as showrun the TV series Devs. He explains his approach to the film in his screenplay novelization. Sunshine was created out of a love of science and of science fiction, in the same way that 28 Days Later attempted to look back towards older post-apocalyptic stories, such as Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Triffids. Sunshine looked back at films such as 2001, Alien, Dark Star, and the original Solaris. This was slow-paced, outer space science fiction, hallucinatory sci-fi about star travel and feeling claustrophobic while gazing into the void. A subgenre, linked by the common theme, that what man finds in deep space is his unconscious. Aside from being a love letter to its antecedents, I wrote Sunshine as a film about atheism. A crew is en route to a godlike entity, the sun. The sun is larger and more powerful than we can imagine. The sun gave us life, and can take it away. It's nurturing, in that it provides the means of our survival, but also terrifying and hostile, in that it will blind us if we look directly upon it. And its surface is as lethal to a man as an environment can get. As the crew travel nearer to the sun, the majesty of the burning star fries their mind. The crew are hypnotized by it, or baffled by it, or driven mad by it. Ultimately, even the most rational crew member is overwhelmed by his sense of wonder, and, as he falls into the star, he believes he is touching the face of God. But he isn't. The sun is godlike, but not God. Not a conscious being. Not a divine architect. And the crew member is only doing what man has always done, making an awestruck category error when confronted with our small place within the vast and neutral scheme of things. The director, Danny Boyle, who is not atheistic in the way that I am, felt differently. He believed that the crew actually were meeting God. I didn't see this as a major problem, because the difference in our approach wasn't in conflict with the way the story was being told. The two interpretations that could be made from the narrative were the same two interpretations that could be made from the world around us. In that respect, perhaps the difference was even appropriate. Now, if that doesn't sound interesting, then I don't know what does. Obviously, Oppenheimer is going to do well financially, as it seems to have made a massive cultural impact long before its release. But if you enjoy the gripping intensity of that film, then I think this film has a lot to offer. And of course, if Cillian Murphy's performance in Oppenheimer blows you away, then it could be very interesting to see him play a very different physicist in Sunshine. I think people can look at the Garland quote and the trailer to this film and believe that this is just another movie that explains to them how insignificant they are compared to the vastness of space. And that can be the perception for a lot of science fiction films that don't involve all these colorful alien races and adventures like Star Wars or John Carter. That these more serious films will shine a light on the evils of humanity and why there's no hope for us. Like this Lovecraft quote here, "The human race will disappear. Other races, in turn, will appear and disappear. The skies will be glacial and empty, traversed by the feeble light of half-dead stars. These too will disappear." But if you give this film a chance, I promise you that you'll come away with a greater appreciation for mankind. And that's something you might not be able to take away from Oppenheimer, for obvious reasons. But again, we get so caught up in the discussions online about whether or not we're alone in the universe in reference to extraterrestrial life, that this film's response is that we're not alone. We have each other. And that's what truly matters.